So this is going to help you with your wolves and elk and Yellowstone scientific explanation. Since we really haven't worked real hard on what's called a CER, a claim evidence reasoning, in the past. We've done a little bit of it, but I really wanted to give you some good techniques on how to do it. But I need you to read the top part of the page where it's the top down through the pictures to the questions. I'm going to let you do that now. Just pause the video. All right, so I'm going to assume you've read the top part of the page. And basically, under number 1, it says, using the explanation tool on the following pages, construct a scientific explanation about the effect the wolf populations on the elk population in Yellowstone. And you're going to look at a graph. It says see graph on next page. And then use the steps and short reading below to guide you as you use this explanation tool. So this page in front of you is numbered, if you see it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it just gives you a little help when you when you look at the data and you fill out a claim evidence reasoning. So here is the steps that you're going to take. So we're going to go over it just so you can see. So the question, you're going to record this question on your graphic organizer. So in the question it says, record the question, what is the effect of the wolf population on the elk population in Yellowstone between 1994 and 2012? So now you're going to go to your organizer that looks like this. And under number 1, you're going to copy that question down. So you should always have a question that you're answering. So I'm matching it up. Now if you look at your explanation tool under number 5, you'll see that number 2 skips down. Because before you can make a claim, which is number 3, you need to look at the evidence. Okay? So we're going to look at the evidence first, and then we're going to go back up and make a claim. So to look at the evidence, it said we needed to look at the graphs. So you should have filled in number 1, and now to fill in number 2, you need to turn to your graph that looks like this. And I'm going to let you look at it. But it said between really it should be 1994. I don't know why it's 1998. So fix that question. It should say 1994. We're going to look at the beginning of the graph. From 1994 to 2012. To the end of the graph, basically. So we should look at the beginning to the end. So fix that on the question. That should say 1994 to the end here. So what you need to do in order to give evidence is, you'll notice that there's 3 to 4, I think there's 4 rows or something like there of evidence. So you need to kind of pull the graph apart into pieces and provide evidence. So maybe you use, when you see something drastic happening, there's even a line here on your graph, but maybe you say, this is one section I'm going to look at for evidence. So what do you see the elk population doing from 1994 to 1999? And then what do you see the wolf population doing? So I would break it apart kind of in those pieces, maybe, something like that, where you see some drastic changes. So now you would go, once you've looked at a piece of the graph where you see something majorly happening, you would go back to your chart and kind of fill that in. So now you're going to go back to your graphic organizer, your explanation tool, and you're going to fill in some evidence. So looking at each piece of the graph. So maybe you only see, 2 or 3 major patterns. And you'd want to talk, not only is it maybe increasing, decreasing, or staying the same, but you want to use specific numbers when you're talking about the evidence. So maybe from 1994, the wolf population was X, and then by 2003, it went up or went down to some number. So you want to use the exact numbers in this evidence. So don't just say it's increasing or decreasing. That's a pattern. Your evidence should say the numbers of what they've actually changed to and from. And you might have to estimate a little bit there. So once you've kind of filled in the evidence here after looking at the graph, so you might fill in 2 or 3 of those rows, maybe even all 4 if you see more patterns. Now you should be able to make some kind of claim. So let's look back at this. So for step 2, we did it. It says complete the reading, examine the graph below on the other page. What patterns do you notice in the wolf population over time? What patterns do you notice in the elk population over time? Describe these patterns, including data with units, as evidence from the graph to support your description. So that's what I was saying. You need to use real numbers. So now we're going to talk about the claim. So for claim, it says, based on the evidence of patterns in the wolf and elk data, state a claim about the relationship between the wolf and elk population. Does your claim agree with your initial thinking? So now you want to go back and look and see what you think the pattern really is. So now in step 3, how did they affect each other? So do you see when the wolf population goes up, does it affect the moose population, or maybe it doesn't? And then vice versa. Are they affecting each other somehow? Do you see some kind of pattern? So you're going to make a claim there on what you think that pattern is. Okay, so that is step 3. So now let's go back and look at whoops, that's not the right thing. Step 4, which is back on here. So step 4, now, I think step 1, 2, and 3 most people get. This is step 4 and 5 that people get a little confused. It says apply the science concepts you have learned to explain how the evidence supports your claim. So this is the scientific concepts. So now what you're going to want to do is go back to your explanation tool, and what scientific concepts have we put here? And that's even the same questions there. In this instance, I'll give you a hint. You can just fill in one scientific concept for pretty much all of these. One thing is making this pattern happen. And I'm going to give you another hint. Think back to all those patterns of interactions we had of symbiosis, mutualism, commensalism, predator-prey, competition, all those. Think about those, and it's going to be probably one of those there. So just think about what you know there, and you can fill it in for all the different sign concepts. It's just one thing. And then now let's look at step 5. So let's go back and look at our front page here. So scientific reasoning. Use the template provided on the explanation tool to explain the scientific reasoning that explains how the evidence and the scientific concepts lead to your claim. So this is where you're going to kind of put your thinking of why this pattern is happening. So now, down here, you're going to say why you think your claim is happening based on this evidence. You're going to connect it. And why you think it's this scientific concept. So you're kind of connecting everything. Why does this evidence support your claim? Why is this data supporting you? Why is this happening? So just basically your thinking behind it. So your reasoning behind it. So in the end, you're going to be writing that down. And putting your reasoning of why you think that's happening. And then when you're done with your graphic organizer, you are done with that section. And we will talk about it at a later time. But also make sure that you don't forget to look at the rubric. Mine's going to probably be a little bit sideways here. But after you've filled in your response, still go here and look at the rubric. You make sure your claim is a level 4, your evidence is a level 4, your scientific concepts and your reasoning are all level 4s. That is a good claim evidence reasoning write-up. All you would have to do on a test is basically, especially that reasoning piece, that's kind of the part of it, kind of just putting it all together. My claim is this, my evidence is this, based on these scientific concepts and this reasoning. So if you ever did on test, you could actually take an organizer like this and write it out in paragraph form, and you would have it.